even though he is New Zealand's most famous known citizen, features on our banknotes, Sir Edmund Hillary was a humble, straight-talking sort of bloke, who through his climbing exploits had already formed an endearing bond with the Nepalese people when he and British Dr. Griffiths Pugh organised the Himalayan mountain expedition. It ran for 10 months between 1960 and 61 and became better known as the Silver Hut Expedition. Hillary was at the pit face for 5 of the 10 months. The project saw a team of scientists, doctors and mountaineers, or a combination of all those attributes, situated 5,800 metres up the Mongbo Glacier, monitoring their acclimatisation up at that altitude for a prolonged period. It took 310 Nepalese porters to haul all the parts of the hut, laboratory, equipment, winter supplies, etc. up the mountain from base camp. It is still considered the preeminent study and was a great leap forward in the understanding of how the human body responds to altitude. At the end of their time living in a 6 by 3 metre silver hut, the mountaineers from the group had a crack at climbing Makalu without oxygen. At 8,500 metres, Makalu is the 5th highest mountain in the world. This part of the experiment failed, mostly due to weather and illness, and Hillary himself suffered a minor cerebral stroke during his climb. Of course, it was a fairly lonely existence being stuck up a mountain for weeks and months on end. Only so many times one can hop on a stationary bike and have their VO2 and blood pressure measured, or sit around the hut reading books, go skiing when the weather permitted, walk or run the expedition mascot dog. Many of the climbers on the project were also interested in the stories of the wild men of the Himalayas,
Yeti,
as were the public. Something the World Book Encyclopedia Company knew would be on the front of every paper in the world were one to be found. For exclusive rights, they would sponsor the expedition, knowing that if ever there was going to be evidence of a Yeti, this was it. The experts at Silver Hut had a prime location and time to poke around for the evidence. Not to forget, they also had the necessary acclimatisation. Off they went. Searches also took place from base camp at 4,500 metres. The Yeti side of the expedition was public relations gold. It was a win-win for the Encyclopedia Company and the scientists. Gave a rather mundane physiological mission a shot in the arm publicity-wise. Then went on to grow in the public's perception to the point the team were up the mountain Yeti hunting and nothing else. The project also had to stave off Russian claims they were all spies observing Chinese nuclear tests. So what did they find, Yeti-wise? Nothing. Any footprints or tracks could be attributed to other causes. What piqued the public's attention after the Silver Hut expedition were the 3 alleged Yeti scalps Sir Ed had managed to borrow from temples on his travels. For the first time, they could be examined by experts to determine their origins. Let's first listen to Hillary answering post-trip questions on a radio show.
Okay, now what about the abominable snowman?
Well, I think my reaction is now definitely that this whole story is mythological. We went into this very carefully on my last expedition, examined all the evidence, and we got a perfectly reasonable explanation, we feel, to all the evidence that appeared, like such as tracks, Yeti scalps, skins, and the stories of the lamas in the monasteries. We didn't have any difficulty in getting a perfectly rational explanation for all these phenomena.
This was the trip that was financed by the World Book Encyclopedia, isn't it?
Yes, my last expedition was essentially one scientific one, carrying out high altitude physiological research. But one of our programs was to examine this business of the abominable snowman, and World Book Encyclopedia financed the whole project.
Now take a look at the media scrum when the Yeti scalps were revealed.
Don't be disappointed. No. This is the scalp. It may look as though it's wrapped in rather unusual garb, but that's how we got it when we got it from the monastery itself, and so we've left these things around it. This is a sort of a ceremonial scarf that they put around things. And this rather tattered old object you see here is their scalp. Yeah. It's a very obviously quite old. It's certainly very brittle. It has to be treated with a good deal of care. But what exactly is?
How old is it?
Well, the local people claim it's 240 years old.
Which people is that?
The people who possess it, the shepherds.
Claim it's
240 years old.
Is it submitted to a carbon test?
We haven't submitted any test yet. It's just going to start that tomorrow.
What kind of a creature do you think it came from?
I don't know. I think if we did know, we probably wouldn't have brought it back, I suppose. But I don't think we really have any accurate idea. We've got a few ideas of possibilities, but if it's authentic, in other words, if it is really, that is a complete scalp, as is, it's obviously rather unusual for the creature. As you can see by the shape of it. And we want a careful investigation of it to try and identify whether or not it is really a complete scalp as a single unit, or whether it's been fabricated out of some other skins many years ago. In fact, an answer for it, really, if we can.
Has any analysis been made yet?
No, nothing at all. The work has been done actually on the hairs of this thing. There's another scalp at a place called Pangbochi, very similar to this, in somewhat worse repair. And these hairs have been examined by, one person, a Japanese professor of zoology, who was he met us at the airport in Tokyo on the way through, and he showed us his report. And he said that it could not be discounted, the possibility that it might be some type of anthropoid hairs and so on. But we don't know, and we want to try and find out.
Could you give us an educated guess, Sir Edmund, on what it is? Do you have an idea yourself?
I don't really have an idea at all.
I think Hillary was being very diplomatic here. After all, he was just about to embark on a one-man philanthropic project that would see him become the biggest single benefactor to the Nepalese people ever. 2 of the 3 relics would prove to be from bears, the other from a goat antelope, spread over a mould to gain the distinctive shape, and adding a henna colouring using a local tea concoction. That, my friends, was that. If Hillary couldn't come up with the goods, no one could. Cheers for your time today. This is yet another great under-the-radar story from New Zealand, one I enjoyed presenting to a wider audience. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now. Haere rā.